Good day, students of English 2351. My name is Osval Gomez, and today I will be presenting in the life of a Chicano. This is a PowerPoint that I developed over my essay of the rainy god and with the connection of the real woman curves and also including how it might be similar to La Prieta. Introduction. Like I said, this is a presentation that is made on these three stories. That is The Rain God, written by Arturo Islas, Real Women Have Curves by Josefina Lopez, and La Prieta, which is done by Gloria Ansaldúa. The Rain God is basically a story about this character named Miguel Chico, who is basically having negativity surrounded him, and he has this family that has different ideas of how he should handle his situations, as well as how the impact of his development had led him to have a different mindset compared to his family. Real Women Have Curves is a story. It's the story of a teenage girl that is a senior in high school, but is trying to attend college. The problem is that her family is different to her mindset, and the main antagonist in this movie, in this story, is the mother, who basically wants Anna to be the same person as the people who she lives with. In La Prieta, it's a story about this teenage girl that as she grew up, she had this denied, she had her rights denied basically by Anglos back in the 1970s, 80s, and how this led her to eventually become a poet and to have a connection with the readers, connection of author to reader. These are the connections that I found, which are the Chicano culture. All of us can share this protagonist conflicts. Everyone has a story to tell, and in these three stories, even though they might not be so similar, they might not be so the same thing, we can always relate to the same scenarios in some way or another, and connection to how other readers might relate, which is in this case, how we can know how some things can happen or how we can learn something from these stories. And in this case, from this protagonist. Similarities. While reading the stories, I found some similarities that I thought were important on while developing this essay, which are adolescence. Everyone has a impact in their adolescence that makes us question how we can handle things. Uh, Family traditions, behaviors, which is how the family can have an impact on us on how to do decision making. An emotional border, which is how we feel towards a certain scenario or how something affects us within adolescence. In the case of Anna from Real Women Have Curves, she's fighting to become independent. As said before, she wants to attend college. The problem is that she cannot get the support from her family, which is putting her to fight towards herself, whether to choose her family or choose her career for her development, for her identity. In the Rain God, his problem is mostly the controversial surroundings that make him believed as he is sinning or he's a sin. his family is often the following the good pathway. So in this case, he has to choose what he wants to be, what he wants to feel. And his scenario, which is how childhood friends have impacted his life, eventually lead him to either separate from his family or to close himself in some way. And in La Preta, Gloria basically experiences racism in her teenage years. And this is eventually disrespecting her rights. And eventually, this led her to become someone later on successful in order to write poems and eventually describe her situations to the public. Family traditions. In the scenario for Anna, this one is basically the family wanting to work together. The women who are the protagonists wanted to work together, and this included Anna. But the problem is that Anna does not want to have that same path. Her mother is basically contradicting her. Her sister is the owner of the organization that is involving all of these women. So the family tradition wants to continue, but Anna disagrees in this case, which eventually leads her to have complications with her mother. In the Rainy God, the father of Miguel Chico is basically the person who wants to teach him how to follow some family traditions, and in this case how to lead the family, how to become the person that Miguel Grande is. But in this case, Miguel Grande is mostly an abusive person, someone who eventually is seen as the protagonist, as the enemy, because he's more abusive towards handling some situations. And in the case of Gloria, this is mostly controversial because Gloria had a difficult um, development while growing up. Basically, her body was different, and also her sexuality was different. Her mother wanted to make her be a housewife, wanted her to become a housewife for a future husband. But Gloria did not see this same scenario. This can also relate a little bit to how Anna feels about the family traditions of working together and becoming the housewife that she does not want to become. Gloria and Anna can relate in some way with the same idea. And with Gloria, the idea that her mother wants her to become the housewife that she is meant to be is basically the contradiction of how Gloria feels towards what she wants for her path. Emotional border. This is basically a more impactful scenario because this involves the feelings of how the characters might feel or how they are pushed towards the limit. In the case of Anna, she's placed in the scenario where her mother or her siblings are are making her choose what is best for her. The mother is pushing Anna to become more responsible of not leaving her family. In this case, it would be her grandfather, who is already a grown-up man who might lose a lot of years of development in case that Anna leaves to college. Her mother is putting that pressure to her. So Anna is forced to choose what is what she needs to do. And eventually Anna decides to go to college. But this is also the push that she needs to do in order to become someone better and someone to have an identity. In the case of Miguel Chico, basically the impact that he had with his childhood friend, in this case Maria, that was so close to him, but then eventually the mother or the father convinced him that she was a bad influence because she contradicted the religion of the family. It made her look as if she was against religion, as if she was sinning. So in this case, Miguel Chico separated himself from her, even though he cared for her. Now, while growing up, eventually Maria died. Maria died in an accident. This led for Miguel Chico to be afraid of death, also because people surrounded him were dying and he feared death. And eventually, as Miguel Chico suffered an injury, which he is getting treated for surgery, he fears that he will die. And this is a fear that most of us don't want to face, which is how to accept that. And lastly, in the case of Gloria, which is how her development was when working in the fields, how some people denied her rights, how some men eventually mistreated her or assaulted her. This led her to become apart from her mindset. It drove her to have stress. It drove her to be anxious. It did not put her in a great mindset where she could think clearly. And in some way, this led her to become a better poet on how to express her feelings, on how to relate to other readers. But eventually, these are scenarios where she can be broken if if she did not know how to handle these situations. Lesson being taught. Eventually, all of this is lessons that the authors give to the readers in order for them to know how to handle situations better or how to give a testimony on how they face these problems. And eventually, in case that the reader might relate or they haven't experienced these scenarios, this gives them an idea of how to solve them or how not to approach certain decisions. In conclusion, the protagonist impacted the reader by showing how their adolescence impacted their decision and development. Family traditions would contrast with their ideas and lifestyle, and how emotional border could lead them to experience denial and isolation situations with their surroundings. Thank you for hearing me out and have a good day.